Welcome to the Matt Wilkie podcast.
Today I'm going to talk about the problems with trying to get new contracts with call centres in the UK, US, and I assume Canada and other locations are suffering with the same thing. With telemarketing and telesales, as I've tried to push people away from actually doing these services, the reality is they're getting nearly impossible to do. The reality is cold calling's illegal. It's also illegal to use automatic dialers, robotic calls, which are the avatar systems, and also the pre-recorded messages. Some of the ways people are getting around this is by going, oh, I'm returning a call in relation to the web form you filled in. I know an insurance company in Florida that uses that quite a lot. But the reality is they are chasing people now for prosecution. There's a company I know in the US that is currently being chased for all its sales back to 2011. Now, the big problem you have with that is a lot of those may not be able to prove what their call was, whether it was automated dialer, etc. But one thing they will be able to identify is if that person was on the do not call list. Now, you may think, well, if you had your solar system and you were on the DNC list, does it really make any difference? Would $7,500 make a difference to you? Because that's about the cost of the fines or compensation for calling somebody on the DNC list. And this is why you're finding that they're not looking for prosecuting them for this year, but going all the way back to 2011. It's not simply a case of just give them a slap on the wrists. They're going out full blown. And from what I understand, it's very likely that this is more of a government thing than a private law firm. Quite simply, they're going to have hundreds, thousands of people that they can actually use to get compensation claims from. Now, how's this fit in with the UK? Well, the same laws are in the UK, but the UK has also implemented a rule relating to your caller ID. With an auto dialer, you can put any telephone number you like. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have to be connected to anything. I've run numbers previously to check if the calls were going through, because I do customer services with my Skype, so I may actually call out on my dialer, but the return call will come through on my UK scope number. So you can just import any telephone number you like. In the UK, that caller ID now has to be the UK company. Not the company in India or Pakistan or Philippines, but the UK company, the customer services. Now, a lot of companies do not want those in the dialers, and I'll explain why. If you're dialing 26,000 calls a day, how many calls do you think that the call centre would receive in the US, UK or whatever that is getting all those missed calls? No idea? I estimate at least 12 an hour. And that's reality, at least 12 an hour, because the answer machines and the numbers showing up on caller displays, etc., will get at least 12 an hour for 12 hours of a day. These are calls that were unsolicited. These were sales calls in the first place, so they're not going to be too happy with calling you back to say that you're John's Conservatories, for example, because they're fed up with sales calls in the first place. But it also means if they were on a DNC list, they've now got access to who was actually calling them, who actually paid for it. And this gets on to the next thing. The fines for the UK for cold calling can be as much as £500,000. It's being pushed through at the moment. Now, the big problem with these is I'm starting to see that they're not looking at this year, next year. They're looking more like from today and trying to go backwards where they can. Because obviously, if you can build up a history of things, it's much easier to deal with them. But because the governments are chasing the companies that they can get hold of, the guy in India, Pakistan, Philippines, wherever, that owns a call centre will struggle to find work more and more over time. I know this from an insurance broker, that his insurance deals were heavily damaged. He got 3 DNCs in a week, which is just over $20,000 fines. And the problem is, does he continue dialing and risk getting more DNCs, or does he give up and just absorb the $20,000 fines? Whichever way you look at it, telemarketing and telesales is being absolutely hammered legally, and this is why I put the emphasis on before that the industry is destroying itself, because it literally is, because there's been a lack of coordination, interest, and sustainability put into it. They've basically destroyed their own sales marketing, and it ain't going to improve. Because I'm not being. How do you take it offshore? How do you take it offshore? If I'm buying a solar panel system, I'm not buying it from Joe Panama, am I? I'm buying it from the guy that's in my town, because when it's faulty, that's the guy I go to. So the fact is, he needs to be the person I deal with. So this stuff offshore may all end up coming back to the West at some point for the marketing side. The other side of this being that lead generation online is where I recommend people put a bit more effort, because the lead gens online are a completely different kettle of fish. If people are actually asking you for that information, it's all perfectly above board, because they instigated the conversation in the first place. In the same way, if you put an advert and they call you, they instigated the conversation in the first place. So there is some sales there, but a lot of the heavy stuff of getting people on the phone and calling them until they buy something is dying a death. I think that's pretty much all I can say on that. This is what I recommend. If you're looking at a call centre, I would look at lead generation online first. Or look at accounting, look at some other type of processing. Data processing can be difficult because the Indians do it so cheap. Data entry is so cheap. Transcription is so cheap. Places like Freelancer have pretty much destroyed a lot of the freelance work, because they've got people doing it as low as 3 or 5 pence a word. Less than that. But some of them are doing it for nothing. I don't even know how they pay the electric bill. But I just wanted to share that, because I know some of you guys are looking at a call centre, but in all honesty, I would look at your clients first. This is why I always say, if you bring the clients, I've already got people that can do this stuff for you. So it doesn't really need a lot of people pushing the sales. It's more a case of getting the right business to come forward. Because ideally, you want inbound. You want to be the ISP help desk. You want to be the people that are dealing with complaint calls or whatever it is. But the telemarketing, telesales has been absolutely hammered. All right. Thanks for listening.